Hey, we are all here. We made it again. Every time the 30-second countdown starts, I wonder if it'll end and we'll still be here, or if the internet will have failed and I can go eat dinner. I just gotta wonder, But for everybody that is joining us right now, as the numbers start picking up here, we got folks on Facebook, we got folks on YouTube, we got people on both the Powershift Facebook page. Welcome. And also on the Rocky Mountain Race Week Facebook page. So thank you to all of you guys for tuning in. Jet Black, Neil Sabo in the house, Wide Winger, Anthony Harville. Thank you. I am joined today by our regular co-hosts, Brian McTaggart. Yeah, look at me pointing the right direction.
Hey!
I'm a big boy now. And over there next to him, Mr. Matt Frost in the house from good old Rocky Mountain Race Week himself. He's the grand poobah, so to speak, and totally appreciate having Matt here. Also, Mr. Adam Dory in the house this evening. And so Adam right there coming out of Colorado, just like Matt. How's the weather there, by the way, Matt?
It's hot already.
Is it hot?
Yeah, it's cool in the mornings, but it gets hot in the afternoons.
It's hot here too.
It was like 93 degrees, I think, today is what I saw.
Yeah, it was 100 here today, apparently. So I'm with you right there. Ugh. And James Crosby from Southern California, where the weather is always perfect.
It's a little warm.
It's a little warm. Well, it is June, so it's in the 90s today, I would guess. High 80s, low 90s.
I wouldn't know. I haven't been outside that much. It's 73 in my shop with the AC on. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You all are suffering. I'm in my refrigerator. I'm good.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Crosby has a hell of an air conditioner in the shop, let me tell you. It was the greatest investment he ever made. All right. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about several things. The theme this evening is going to be road trips. And everybody knows that this time of year is Rocky Mountain Race Week. We got Power Tour starting next week. We've got Midwest Drags that are happening right now. There are tons and tons of road trip events that are starting up and are going to be going hot and heavy in June and July and August as we lead into going into all the LS Fest events. We got LS Fest here in Texas next weekend. We've got LS Fest in Bowling Green in September, then Ford Fest and Mo Party, et cetera, et cetera. Now is the time to be driving your hot rods, but that means there's a lot of prep work that has to be done.
And it's hot rod season too. I mean, even if you're not going to go on one of these big events, there's, cars and coffee stuff that you can get out to. There's a ton of local stuff. You can check all your Facebook stuff. But the goal of this today is getting your thing out and driving it and really, really going through it. And, really, what good's a car if it just sits in the garage, right? Dust that crap off and go drive the thing. And, it's hot rod season, guys, so it's time.
I agree wholeheartedly. And the cool thing is that we have so many things going on at one time that people are like, oh my God, which thing do I go to? But right now, hot and heavy. Everybody's getting ready. Rocky Mountain Race Week is coming up here in 10 days or whatever. And it's that time of year. We're all excited about going and cruising through the Rocky Mountains, going through the Midwest a little bit, seeing a bunch of really cool cars on the road, going to great drag strips. And there have been a lot of people who are new to this event, a lot of people that have never done Road Week, which is just the road trip portion of this event. And same deal goes for people going on Power Tour, et cetera. So, we've got a lot of things that you may not think about before you get on a road trip. You're used to driving your hot rod maybe around town, right? You drive it 10 miles at a time, 15 miles at a time, but you never drive it for hours and hours and hours at highway speed, what have you. So there's some stuff you definitely want to pay attention to. Matt and Adam, what are the number one things that we see fail on Rocky Mountain Race Week? What would you say is the number one thing?
Oh, definitely valve train. That's your biggest component. It'd probably be valve train. I mean, your top things is valve train, alternators, water pumps, and fans. Those are your main.
And fuel pump.
And fuel pumps, yes.
Fuel pumps.
Yes.
That's a good one too, Adam. Well, and if you are me or Matt Frost, then fuel level always an issue.
Right?
Because we can run out of fuel in anything.
Anywhere.
I am really good at coasting for a very long way. I will tell you that though. I don't actually consider myself having owned a vehicle until I've run out of gas in it. I mean, that's really just because I don't own anything that I haven't run out of gas in. So, it's awesome. I also don't own.
It's a rite of passage.
It is a rite of passage. I got to tell you, I think I'm going to say somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of my cars do not even have a working gas gauge. I'm just saying. It is
Daphne and the
not at
stick.
all. There's no working fuel gauge in any of them except the dually. The dually and my Honda have actual working gas gauges.
Yeah,
I was going to say
the wagon has a stick.
The wagon has a stick. Yes, it has
Right.
a stick to measure the depth of the fuel. And it is a calibrated stick. It actually has marks on it for 5 gallons, 10 gallons, 15 gallons. So
We're talking to the guy that sent his wife on a road trip with a stick for a fucking gas gauge.
yeah, and it was fine. It was all good. All right, so Matt, if somebody is first timing Rocky Mountain Race Week, right now we expect that they're thrashing. Okay, they're trying to finish their car, which everybody's trying to do.
Matt just got done thrashing himself. He just said he's taking a third member out of his car to switch it back to quarter mile to do exhibition passes at Race Week.
Yep.
I know, which is going to be awesome.
Excuse me for a second.
I cannot wait. But here's the thing. So people get to thrashing and they're so focused on the one thing and they forget about the big picture, which is we still got to put all our spares together. We got to put all our junk together and figure out how to pack it in the car, all those things. So I'll tell you, I have always kept the whiteboard going, right, in the shop. And literally you'll think of something as you're using a tool and you're like, we're going to need this. And you yell at whoever's around to write it on the whiteboard, right? So with a little over a week left before a lot of you are going to have to leave town and head for Rocky Mountain Race Week, I am telling you, now is the time to be making a list. And I'll start off the list. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
The big thing that people don't think about because they're too busy working on their car is they forget about their tow rig and their trailer because that gets neglected. Like packing bearings and making sure that there's new tires on there because they've been setting for 3 years or whatever that may be. Those are the things that a guy doesn't think about until the last minute. It's too late. So, if you forgot about that, send your kid or your wife or somebody else while you're still thrashing on your car, or get a friend to pack your bearings because I don't know how many times we've had. We have a lot of that stuff where we're trying to help guys get their stuff fixed just before they even get there.
I was gonna say,
That's a really
shit's got to get there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's one of those deals where if you're really short on time, spend the $60 or whatever and send your kid down to get the oil changed in the tow rig and have them check all the fluid levels, at that point. So at least you'll know stuff's right. And yeah, trailers, dude, whether it's your race week trailer that you are going to, to be hauling behind your race car, or it's your tow rig, trailer, dude, make sure that everything works. The lights, the wheel bearings, that you got a spare tire, all those kinds of things are hugely important in order to be able to make sure that you're going to make it, right? If you don't get there to start the event, you can't, win the thing at all. If you don't make it from track to track, you can't win it. You have to make it.
Well, it just starts your week off rough when you're already fighting that, trying to get there, and it's going to happen. It's that time of year where it gets hot. So tires on trailers are going to blow out. That's just the nature of the beast, especially when we're all trying to run 90 mile an hour, which I can do now because I changed the rear end gears in the Toad. So you guys aren't all going to be passing me at 65 mile an hour, but yeah, you're pushing it a little bit hard and you're going to have a tire, you're going to lose a tire or whatever. So just make sure, to be aware of that. And the thing that people don't think about, and this is something that, it's not related and it kind of is at the same time, steer tires on your your tow rig, like your big tow rigs and your motorhomes and stuff like that. Like they may look like they're in good shape. I don't know how many times I've seen steer tires blow out on RVs and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, that's a bad deal when a steer tire blows out on them big trucks and those big RVs and stuff like that. So if they're more than a couple years old, you need to get those off there, rotate them to the back, and put some new ones up front, because that's not something to mess with right there.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I can tell you too, like, you know, Rod Hagen says everybody needs to be like Rich Guido and drive it all the way there and home. I'll tell you what. Now, we all know that that's hardcore. Everybody on Race Week knows that that's what we always did with Daphne's car. We drove it all the way from California to wherever the hell it was starting, even when it was all the way in Kearney, Nebraska, and then we drive it all the way back. And on the one hand, that's kind of crazy, right? You're putting all those extra miles on it. But at the same time, if you don't have a really reliable, good tow rig and trailer to pull with, it may be the smarter option to just get in your car, load it up with the stuff, and roll it. And we always drove. We always drove with the street tires on the back, and literally would get to town with our drag radials in the back of the car, have them swapped over onto the same wheels, and then left the street tires at the tire shop, did the whole week, came back, swapped the tires back, and rolled home on the street tires. We did that almost every single year.
I'm doing that this year. I'm driving the Cadillac out. Two main reasons. The Cadillac gets like 22 miles a gallon driving down the highway, and the tow rig gets like 7.
Yeah.
And gas is expensive, and they're both going to swill 91 anyway.
Right.
So, like, whatever. On top of that, right, like you're saying, like, now I have 4 less wheel bearings to worry about. I don't have any, I don't need to carry a bunch of extra spares, a bunch of extra tires, worry about extra tires and needing to do all that. I mean, you think about if you're rolling down the road in a truck and a trailer, you got 8 wheel bearings.
Yeah.
And that's a normal everyday, 4-wheel truck, 4-wheel trailer. Driving down the street in your car, you got 4. So,
and let's be quite honest,
I got 10.
Yeah, but you don't have a regular anything, Matt.
But these, we're paying, let's see, I'm paying about $4.65 a gallon for fuel out here, Kentucky, Tennessee. I just drove back up from Chattanooga last night. What's diesel right now where you guys are at?
Yeah. It's 5.20 or something here. Yeah.
So 5.65 here.
Another 25, 30, 40% over.
8.60.
I beg your pardon. Fuck.
8.60.
$8.60 a gallon, Rick Crosby says.
Jeez.
So if you look at that and use an Adams example, right? And you go from his 3/4 ton, 6-liter powered Suburban, which, by the way, is better than a whole lot of other tow rigs. Not as good.
Well, what did your Suburban used to get? Yeah.
My Suburban was the same Suburban as Adams, exactly. And that thing would get 11 unloaded on like the most perfect flat ever cruise with no load. And then driving around town all the time, it got like 9 miles to the gallon, and towing, it got 7 to 9 miles to the gallon. I mean, that's what it was,
Yeah.
Well, that's not very far off of what a Dodge Ram pickup does. If it's loaded and it's loaded good, you're not going to get any better than 7 or 8 gallons to the, it sucks.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and here's the deal too. One of the other challenges that people face, and you know this well, Matt. So, Matt, you have a really cool tow rig that is this 4-door plus, hauler. That's it's more like a big rig than it isn't, right? I mean, I know it's not as big as your normal, heavy haul truck, but still big truck. That you tow a big trailer with, that has all the Race Week stuff in it and all that, or your race car, or in this case, your race car and all the Race Week stuff this year.
Right.
But a lot of people have a regular 2-axle, 7,000-pound car trailer. Like I own one of those, a normal tag style car trailer that's a 16-foot deck or whatever it is to 20-foot deck. Dude, a lot of people cannot fit their Race Week little trailer and their race car on that setup. So they're either putting a ball on the back of that trailer, then tow the other one along or whatever, or they're shoving it in the bed of a truck. I mean, it gets kind of dicey sometimes with those. I mean, we see them roll into the racetrack and you're like, wow, that was good, you know? So
right, and like 8 dudes are unloading the trailer out of the back of the truck upside down, and like trying to drop it on themselves, and it's a mess, man.
It's a mess. So in some of those cases, it might be better to just drive your junk and get it there. Tow in the little trailer that you need, and you're all set, you know?
Yeah, but
which is what Rich does, you know?
Who was it in 2020?
The
Stacy Gifford did it. So Stacy Gifford came out on Rocky Mountain Race Week 2020. He brought out a Honda Insight, which is basically a garden slug with taillights.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And that little bastard is a K-swap. It's originally they were a little hybrid right about 2000. His was K-swapped. He's doing 53 miles to the gallon, and he's beating the shit out of cars he has no right to beat the shit out of. I was having a blast the whole time driving it.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want your cheating way to do it, there you go.
100%. Well, so let's get back to the things that people need to make sure that they are checking and have spares for. So I'll go first. Matt said, valve train, parts. I am going to second that. I am going to tell you that regardless of what you have, if you have a traditional small block with 23-degree normal, which is standard, cylinder heads on it, all just normal parts, okay? You need to remember 2 things. Number 1, just bring a couple extra rocker arms, right? If you got a set, even if it means that you should go buy a literally like a $60 set of cheapy roller rockers or whatever, right? Anything so you have spares is good. A couple of push rods, okay? Cheap, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be fancy. Just a couple of extra push rods, okay? I always bring a couple of locks, maybe an extra retainer in case you bash one on a spring, right? Literally a little Tupperware container of what I need is what I have, and then a couple of push rods that are wrapped up. The other thing to remember is your list of spares should include applications. We've talked about this a bunch. We've used the alternator as the example. A guy has an aftermarket alternator, and his old brain only works on, it's a XYZ 5000. Well, no, it's not. It's a goddamn alternator for an 87 IROC. That's what you need to know, right? So, because when the shit goes down, it doesn't matter if you buy a stamped steel non-roller rocker arm from O'Reilly's. It made small block Chevrolets go hundreds of thousands of miles for decades with no issue. It will get you to the next racetrack where you can get your speed parts that are being overnighted from Summit. So you gotta think survival, which means spares, and which means knowing what will fit your car that isn't necessarily a race part.
In that Tupperware that you set up, bring a helicoil kit for whatever threads your rocker arms are, and especially if you have a cheap set of aluminum heads. I've seen that 100 times. Dudes are always looking, crap, I pulled my threads out of my rocker arms on my heads, and I need a helicoil. If you have one, you probably won't need it, and life is good. But especially if you've got cheap heads, a helicoil kit in that little Tupperware kit. Also an on the head valve spring removal tool, and the compressed air fitting. And then you can find yourself some compressed air somewhere. If you've got an air compressor, great. Anyone with a turbo car probably has an air tank to pressurize their domes. Or
you can take a bicycle pump with you.
Yeah.
Well,
even that'll do it.
Or just make sure you got enough rope that you can shove it in the cylinder.
Rope will do it.
Yep.
Rope will do it.
Rope is a great one, Matt. I'm glad you said that. Rope is a great one. And that makes me think of the other stuff you should have anyway. You need an extra ratchet tie down or 2. You need 400 zip ties. You need a roll or 4 of duct tape. You should have mechanics wire, which I know there are no such thing as mechanics anymore. They're all technicians, which means they're parts replacers. But for those of us like Matt and I who grew up fixing junk on the side of the road, when we drove truck and everything else, mechanics wire is a godsend. Okay. And it's dirt cheap. And you can do some amazing stuff with it. So you want that.
And Chad, what color zip ties?
What color zip ties? All of them. No, I'm black zip ties for everything that needs to be pretty, and white zip ties for the things that are temporary that I'm going to need to remove, because then I can see them and it reminds me. So that's my normal. But you also get, if you want one that could really save your life in a pinch, and I haven't carried any of these the last couple of years because I gave them away, go to Home Depot, and at Home Depot or Lowe's, they sell zip ties that are like 5 feet long, and they're like 3/8 or a half an inch wide, and they are for zip tying a water heater to the wall. Okay, and you find them in California everywhere because you have to have a bracket on the wall to hold your water heater for the earthquake, right? But I assume you can buy these everywhere. They're like 500 pounds tensile strength or something. I mean, they'll hold a transmission in a car. Like, they're badass. Like, so bring them. They are really, really gnarly. They're like, I don't know, 10 or 12 or 15 bucks a piece, but they're worth it. Trust me. Okay, Matt, what do you think? What would you say to bring?
Wasn't that Finnegan and them guys that had to use a ratchet strap to hold the transmission in last year?
Yeah.
I think it was those guys that had to use it. So stuff like that happens. And I was going to tell a story about, the Road Toad. When I first bought that, me and June were running the route with it, and we were kind of just testing it out. Well, the compressor went out on it. So, it's got air brakes. So if the compressor goes out, you ain't got no brakes. It locks them up. So we're sitting on the side of the road. Service guy comes, says he can't fix it. So what I do, we went and bought one of those little bitty compressors that you stick into the cigarette lighter.
Yep.
And I ran the hose down to the air tank, got enough air to release the brakes, and then I would just plug it in when we get close to a town or whatever, so I could use it long enough to get through the town. Yeah. And that's how we made it home. We went all the way from Lamar to here, which is a couple 100 miles, with a little compressor that was only about this big.
Oh, shit.
It's just the kind of crap you got to do,
Well, yeah, because for those of you out there that don't understand how air brakes work, the air does not apply the brake; it releases the brakes. Them. So, yeah, it's an air bellows that holds the brakes released. So when you hit the brake pedal, what you're doing is letting the air pressure out of the system, which then applies the brakes. So it's safer because if you lose air, at least the thing is going to stop instead of not stopping. But there is no moving one without air at that point. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So you drive something that's pretty extreme, Matt. We see people driving things at all levels. Okay. For the guys that are bringing something that is, going to be one of the, top 10%, as let's say, in ET and mile an hour, what do they need to remember?
I mean, like we talked, definitely the rocker, the valve train stuff is going to be a huge deal for those guys. That's our major deal. Something that they, that you have to think about. We've seen with the 6 week deal, especially when the track's prepped very well, the tire shake scenario, that becomes a third member problem where you're going to shell rear end gears and stuff like that. So if you can get your spare third member in there in your trailer with you, that's a huge deal to have with you, because I've seen it. I've seen it tons of times where guys have, knocked the third member out of it, and then you're trying to scramble to get one. So if you can bring that, that's a good one. And it's just a matter of, it's really going to be one of those deals where they got to read the track and figure out what they're going to do, because that's where the track's at. That's what's going to tear it up, and that's going to keep you from going to making it the long haul. So, going fast is one thing, but being smart about doing it, that's what's going to make your car live. And that's what we see a lot of that. It's really hard on the parts and starts breaking stuff. Then it's going to be stuff that you don't necessarily have with you, or you're not going to be able to carry with you. So I think that's the biggest thing. My demise in 2015 for drag week was rocker arms. Don't ever buy a set of used rocker arms from somebody who is a drag and drive dude, because
that stuff's beat to shit.
Exactly. It's already ruined.
Yeah. I found that out the hard way, because it broke every rocker that I bought, and luckily, Doug Klein was the one that he had brand new set, and he's like, leave me 2, and you take the rest of them and put them on, and we're like, cool, we got this figured out, and we put all these new rockers on there. It was our first time out or whatever, and somehow one of them it must have got something, and we dropped the valve like 200 miles from the last track, which was a complete bummer because we were doing really well. Like, it was 7-second passes at every track, for our first time out was awesome. It wasn't 7 seconds, but a mid 7 or high 7 or whatever it was. And, so the valve train thing it'll eat you up, especially when and I think, we've come a long way with cams too. Like the cam profiles and stuff like that make it to where the valve train lives a lot better than what it did 10 years ago. It's amazing where we've come with that. And I think the other thing that, will save a lot of guys don't think about is like a blown application or some of that stuff that doesn't have necessarily, you're not used to, like if you're just normal drag racing, you're not used to having to have a balancer on there. Well, a balancer is going to play a huge role with what we're doing because it's going to take, the harmonics out of there and keep some of that stuff from dying so quick.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, to me, if you're driving one of the, more extreme level cars, doesn't matter whether it's a big tire car or a small tire car. If you're in one of the higher horsepower, more extreme combos, you also need to, the most important thing that you need to bring is a clear head. And the reason I say that is because you need to know before you ever leave your house which guy you are, right? You either need to know you're the guy that is going to be all in all week long as everything goes right and we don't hurt anything major on the car, right? You'll fix whatever small things there are and go. But if something catastrophic happens or something crazy, you need to know ahead of time that you are not fixing it, right? You're like, nope. If anything real bad happens, we're going to just haul it back and be, glad that we had some fun and that's it. If you're going to be the guy that's like me, who is going to go to every extreme, like to the point of, stealing a car to get an engine out of it, whatever it is you got to do, then you need to know you're that guy ahead of time because that's going to change some of the shit you need to bring.
I agree, but a lot of guys... I've seen that, although you've had it so many times where there's that guy that if it breaks, I'm going to load it up. Well, what they don't realize is once you get in the thick of it and once you're in the group of the peer pressure and everything else, you turn into the other guy. So just go ahead and plan on being the other guy.
And I would encourage that because I am that guy. And I always am the guy that's like, we can fix your shit. If you're willing to do it, I know how we can fix this, and to me, that's part of the satisfaction. That's part of the high you get from completing one of these is the fact that you lived through the thrash. That's part. Heck, Adam Dory wouldn't know how to put axles in his Cadillac on a lift at a garage. No. Like, wouldn't know what to do with himself. No idea. If you want to do it like the right way, Adam's right way, dude, racetrack or hotel parking lot,
oh yeah, Kearney or Great Bend, I got it. I know exactly the places to do it. Exactly the pit stalls that have the perfect places that pool all the grease from the rear end right where you lie on the stuff. Oh, it's fantastic. Super good.
So let's go on to tools. What do you guys think is the tool that people most often don't bring that they should have brought? Or the kind of tools, right? To me, the thing that I see all the time is the specialty item. So if you're a guy that's racing something that's got crazy valve train and you didn't bring the tool to remove, to do the valves, that you got to change a spring, right? And you brought everything else to adjust them, to test spring pressure, but you didn't bring the tools to be able to remove anything. That I've seen a ton. The other one is guys that don't have spare fittings, any spare bolts,
hoses.
Those are the kinds, hoses. Those little things are the things to me that people have got. Oh, the other thing is, if you don't have nut drivers with you, you should be smacked in the mouth, okay? There isn't a hose clamp on earth that ever should have a flat-bladed screwdriver used to tighten it, It's a hex head for a reason, for the love of God. Okay? Like, Jesus, people. Because the number of guys we know who have shanked themselves with a screwdriver while trying to tighten dude, hello? That is just not even allowed. Like, you should be stabbed with the screwdriver at a time.
I already did it.
Why are we even worrying about this?
David Bordelais in the comments also put in drill and bits.
Great one. 100%. That is a great one.
A 4-inch like Makita grinder with cutoff wheels and grinding.
Ooh.
Dude,
the death wheels.
I agree. I do not think it is a bad deal to bring a grinder and a cutoff wheel. I always bring that stuff because I've never been on a race week or a drag week or any of them where somebody hasn't needed to cut metal and weld metal. And so bringing the welder I have not done, but I will with my trailer setup. But it absolutely. Fabrication tools, just the minimum stuff, always a good idea.
And every drive belt that you have, fan belts, if you got a blower belt, bring extras because you're going to need it.
Now, Matt, you run a gear drive for your supercharger on your car, but a lot of guys run the belts. And you talked about tire shake earlier. Tire shake is really hard on the belt. And guys, those belts are expensive. I know cog belts are not cheap, but dude, you've got to have a spare or two. I mean, you absolutely do.
It'll actually, and what people don't see a lot of the time too, is it'll actually separate the cog from the outer casing, and you won't notice it right away. It doesn't just tear the belt apart most of the time. It actually starts tearing those teeth away, and you won't see it until it's too late. Or usually what it is, if you're running your blower or whatever, it's usually when you get about 5 miles outside the track and it spits that sucker off. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can get through that. We've seen some stuff where guys you pull the blower belt off, it'll run. It ain't going to run very good, but it'll run through through the blower. But, you got to have that. I mean, and like he was talking the belts and stuff. I remember we kept having alternator problems on Steve Marine's Willys, and it kept kicking the belt off there. And what we had to do, it worked for a while. We had all these O-rings, and we put 100 O-rings on from the crank to the freaking alternator to run it, because we're out there in the middle of the, nothing would stay running. The pumps nothing. And it got him, I think, probably about 15 or 20 miles before it finally blew all of them off there. But it's just stuff like that. You got to be the ultimate MacGyver, and having those extra things JB Weld and JB Epoxy and stuff like that. Those things could be huge for you, whether you pull the bolt out and you need that stuff to get it to stay in there, or you got a hole in a tank, or you rubbed a hole in something, or something hit the, you hit roadkill, or you made it roadkill and it tore up your radiator or whatever.
I know Hot Rod Drag Week, I can't remember the guy's name. He had the 79 300, took out a deer, and whole front bumper assembly, the whole nose cone of that car got waxed, and he's running around with a 2x4 and his headlights bail wired on. It's that kind of thing because it's happened before. Chad, you remember a couple years back, somebody almost got a deer in a Pro Street Camaro.
Oh yeah, every year on Drag Week somebody runs into deer because those people at Hot Rod are too stupid to know you shouldn't put a route through the middle of fucking fields during the time where deer are rutting. For the love of God, hello, because they're from LA. They don't understand.
This happens,
Yeah. No, you got to watch out for that. There is absolutely no doubt. I also, I love Nick Richards is on here, says same thing with motorcycles, an extra chain and a sprocket. That's not something that we think about on, most of the events, but Rocky Mountain Race Week has motorcyclists on it, and it's awesome, and we love it, but that's true. And those guys have to be even more careful with what they bring and how, because they don't have as much room as the rest of us, but pretty cool. Rod Hagen mentioning that Prika got a deer on sick week, and he did. Oh, right. Yeah, he ran right into that sucker, let me tell you, and tore up the nose of the Nova. Thank God they were going to replace parts on the nose of it anyway, but, that was sad. That thing was just a beautiful car.
Go ahead.
I recommend lights, tons and tons of lights. Those things are, I mean, your Murphy's Law is you're going to break down and it's going to be dark, or you're going to have to fix your crap and it's going to be dark. So having lights and big lights that that you can fold into little lights to carry.
Either, you don't need big ones,
right? I mean, you just those little ones do a ton, but you got to have them.
You got to have multiple.
You can look at like Matt's car; he has built-in lights.
Yes.
And like a few of the guys have stuff like that where you have lights built around where the places you're going to be working because you've got power in the car, you've got lights, you're going to be, whatever. Yeah. And then fire extinguishers, and we've hit that before. Somebody mentioned it on here as well. I think Anthony Harville got to have a fire extinguisher. That's you're one mistake away from not only not finishing the event but not having your car anymore. And we've had a couple of guys get some pretty big fires and. Luckily had dudes pull over and save their stuff.
Yeah. Well, and so people are throwing up some light suggestions. I will tell you guys, if you have a spare battery in your trailer and an inverter, or if you have an inverter wired into your car, which I would recommend, a really good 110 inverter does not suck any power out of your car when you're not plugged into it. Okay. But when you need it, it can be pretty invaluable. If you do that, and if you go to, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, you can buy 24-inch LED little shop lights that have like a they look like tubes, but they're not. And they're
exactly.
Yeah, they're two, double row little LED lights that are this big. Crosby knows I used a bunch of them to light the outside of my old shop for Peyton's birthday party. We lined them around a boxing ring and a bunch of stuff, but they put off.
They worked good.
Yeah, they work real good. And they put off a ton of light. And the beauty is they're LED. So they only take like 3 amps. Okay. Their regular 110, they're like $19. So buy a couple of them. They're all covered in a big plastic thing. So they're real durable. You can shove them under a car and they make a bunch of light. You can hook 2 bungee cords to them and hang them on the hood. And they make a bunch of light and they're cheap. So, and you're not, if you run one over or one dies, you don't care. You go to Home Depot the next day when you're at near one and get another one. It's not a big deal, Exactly. Lycan says, when are you streaming spontaneously or do you post when you will? We post when we will, and we did. So if you follow the Facebook pages, you will be notified. If you follow us on YouTube, which is where you're watching, you'll know as well, because we did post that up as a scheduled live broadcast. So you will know every time, Lycan. So definitely follow us and you'll see all of that. Let's see here. Has anyone ever used a solar panel on the roof of the trailers? Matthew Jacobs is asking this question, and that's a great one. And yes, there are several guys who use the solar chargers for their trailer batteries. Do you do that, Matt?
No, but see, with that LED, so what I did is we did those LED strips. So you can just buy the LED strips, and I have them on both. We have them on both of the front bars facing the motor. We have one under the cowl, and then I have 2 inside the car because on my car you can take the tranny tunnel apart so you can see the tranny. Right. And then in the back we have it up over the rear end. So literally, and they can stay on for a long period of time, and it won't. I mean, you can take your motor apart, put it back together, and it's not going to kill your battery. But
because they're really low power.
Yeah, we can rebuild. We can do everything we need to do without ever turning a flashlight on with just the flip of the switch. So, I mean, that's a great way to do it. What he's talking about if you do that, with the solar panel and stuff like that, you can also charge. If you get the right stuff, you could charge your batteries for your Milwaukees and stuff like that. But another thing I wanted to talk about, the fire extinguishers. A lot of people don't think about this. That powder is in those fire extinguishers, and the smaller ones that you mount between your seats and stuff like that, they never get used. And as you're driving and all those vibrations and stuff like that,
I screwed it up.
Packs the powder.
Yeah.
And so when you go push that button, all that comes out is just the pressure, and nothing comes out of there. So if you ever get in that situation where you have to use your fire extinguisher and it's been in the car for a period of time, you need to smack that thing onto the ground and break up that powder, and then you can use it. Yeah. So right that's my car lit up, without even actually you can see everything underneath there. It's amazing how well that works.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very good point on the fire extinguishers, Matt. I say everybody should have multiple. If you're pulling a trailer, you should have a fire extinguisher in the trailer. You should always have one in the car. I think it's a good idea to have one in the trunk as well. And I think if you have a car that runs 8s or better, you should have a fire system in the car. Yeah, 100%. There's just no reason not to.
The onboard is going to save you in the same sense. If you're going down the road and something happens, you know what I mean, and your car catches on fire, you can throw your onboard system on and shut it down. You're not going to end up having to worry about it. I mean, it sucks because you burned it out, but you know.
Yeah, but if you use if you do a single bottle system, then you'll go and run that, you know, it goes to all the nozzles. If you run a dual bottle system, which is what I would recommend, you have a nozzle under the hood and then nozzles inside for the driver and passenger.
Well, the race juice has halon underneath and a cold fire inside.
Yes, right, because you can't do a halon fire system inside the car because it sucks all the oxygen out of the air, so you'll run out of air. But for exterior, halon's great, like no issue. And Fire Aid and all the other modern ones that you know are used for race car stuff now, they're great because they are all water based. The propellant or the powder that's in there with it. So when it dries, you literally blow it out with an air gun. It blows right out of the car. It doesn't leave a residue. It doesn't eat up things. It's really good. So I would encourage people to look at that for sure. There are some other interesting fire safety things that you can get too. If you really wanted to be really conscious of this, you can get a fireball, which is, they make them in different sizes, but you can get a little bitty ball and it comes in a little cage and the ball sits in the cage and you put it in your trailer or in a closet or in your garage or whatever you're trying to protect from fire. And if it catches on fire where it's at, the ball essentially explodes, okay, because of the heat.
Puts it all out. Oof.
Yeah, and it just blows, you know, all the retardant everywhere and puts the fire out like that. And dude, you can put one of those inside your little trailer, and if you did have a fire in that sucker, it'll put it out in a heartbeat. It's really amazing. They put them in boats and stuff. They're really, really cool. Fire Aid actually makes one, but there's several of them on the market, and they're not that expensive. So definitely look at that. There's some really cool stuff for all of that. So the other things that I would say that people need to definitely keep in mind is fuel pumps, as we said, water pumps, etc. Fuel pumps. If you are a carbureted guy, get over yourself. And I'm going to say this because I have had this conversation, I mean, at least 100 times with a carburetor guy that's like, oh, my XYZ 5000 is broken and now I'm out. I can't make it to the next track. And I'm like, your junk's carbureted, dude. Put a Holly Blue pump on that shit and go down the road. And
not even that. Just that little square, Mr.
The little,
exactly. Right. Dude, it doesn't matter. You don't need all that fuel until you're spraying it with 40 million horsepower nitrous. So
it works,
yes, put a pump in it. It doesn't matter if your guy in the passenger seat has got a whole milk pump. I don't care. You just
get a regulator.
Yes.
Hold the bottle up.
Yes. I mean,
I do that bitch if you have to.
Right. I mean, we all laugh about it, but Matt, we all know the dumb stuff we've had to do to fix stuff.
It happens.
And it's super easy to do. Here's the other thing, okay? I can tell you, as sure as I'm sitting here, that there have been a couple of times on these road trips where somebody had some fancy fuel injection system and fancy distributor and all the stuff that I love and we all love to have, and had a failure and was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't, there's no way to get where I need to go. And I'm like, yeah, there is. They sell Holly carburetors and HEI distributors at every O'Reilly's auto parts store.
Yep.
No, it works.
Bolt that son of a bitch on the 4150 flange, and you put HEI sugar in it, and it will go down the road. Now, that doesn't work for Matt's Steve Morris engine, but it works if you have a big block Chevrolet that's a normal deck height. You've got a small block. Like, you could get down the road. So think, that's the big one.
And the other thing, if you have a car with an in-tank fuel pump, make a freaking access panel to get to the pump.
Oh, God.
That or have everything you need, because a lot of people get freaked out about the tanks. It's 2 nuts and 2 straps and have a jack.
Yeah,
I know, but you cut a freaking hole in the trunk floor or whatever, you can get to it, take it out.
Cut the hole.
Yeah, the number of times that I've watched Alex Taylor climb in the trunk of her car and pull the access panel to get the fuel pump out. And now, by the way, because of the fact that hers has a dual pump setup in there and was originally configured for a single, means that she swears at herself for not making the hole bigger every time, but she can still get it all out of there in the trunk, right? So it is.
Well, it's like Brett with the 48-hour Camaro after all those pumps died in that piece of shit.
Oh yeah.
He goes, "I want you to cut a hole I can fit my fat fucking head through."
Yes. And they did, and it worked perfect. The other part about this is that you got to remember that all of this stuff that we're telling everybody, all of the prep work or whatever, that's all to make your trip more fun and easier, and so your enjoyment level will go way through the roof. Also remember that you're not going to, like 99.9% of the stories that you're going to tell from race week are not going to be about you going down the drag strip.
No.
They're going to be everything else you did, right? Yeah, you're going to say, oh, my career best, right? My this or the giant wheel stand or whatever. But the normal is going to be, Chad and I made an idler pulley out of a can of dip.
Copenhagen can, right?
Which really happened. Thank you very much. Yes, those are the things that are going to be the funny. Okay, so.
Or changing a water pump on a 48 Ford and using a hammer to hold the motor up to get the freaking pump off.
I literally was thinking about that today. Like, Crosby is and flatheads have 2 water pumps, one on each side of the engine. Crosby is literally undoing the bolts. I have a ball peen hammer wedged in between the motor mount, and I'm holding the motor up because there's no clearance otherwise there. And it's awesome. I mean, it worked like a champ. It's all part of that whole motor mount area and junk. It's awesome. It's fine. You got to have friends and the tools you need. It'll be fine.
Or driving around with a convertible with your helmet on. I seem to remember somebody doing that.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's always fun. Hey, if it's cold out, dude, helmet's great.
And that was your mom's car, wasn't it?
It was mom's car. Brian Mackey is like, that was my car, the dip can pulley. Yes, exactly.
How about Steve from Chuck's Towing has his 41 wheelies. So he's a tow truck driver. My car drops the valve. He hooks the strap from his wheelie bars to my 67 Nova. So could you imagine seeing a 41 wheelies pulling a 67 Nova down the highway to the gas station?
Right?
Like that's the stuff you're going to talk about,
Of course. And that's a good point, though, Matt. A tow strap. Dude, make sure. Right. So here's one thing you got to remember. You are allowed to borrow a tool when you need a tool that you don't have, but you cannot use, your buddy can't bring the jack stands and you bring the jack, right? So that you're always using the jack stands he's carrying and he's always using the floor jack you brought. That's against the rules. That's not in the spirit of this thing, right? But if you're going to travel with the same group of 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 dudes and you go, hey, okay, who's going to carry the tow strap, right? That's a valuable deal. You don't need to all have one, but somebody in the group does, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of rescue items, split those up as to who's hauling what, right? That's fine. That's not a tool you need every day. Oh, God help you if you do. I mean,
well, and the rules state that, okay, so this is how we lay it out. technically, when your car breaks, you're supposed to fix it wherever it breaks at. Like that's what our rule is. But within that rule, we also understand that you might be in a position or a bad spot that's going to get you hurt or somebody killed or whatever. We want you to tow your vehicle to the safest spot that there is. Whether that's a mile down the road or maybe it is 4 miles down the road. We don't want you to tow it to the repair shop, but we want you to get yourself off the road to where it's safe enough for you to do what you're going to do without getting hurt. So that's absolutely something that is okay.
Yeah, because you need to go, working on the side of a 2-lane highway is already sketchy, but working on the side of the freeway of an interstate is dangerous. And Matt drives interstates every day. I do too, because I drive a pretty good commute every day. And I can tell you that you don't want to be on the side of Interstate 35 working on a car. Like, go to the next exit and get off the exit. And that way you can be somewhere where you're going to be safe and not get run into, because that is just not something we want to see.
So one popped in. James Chad Revels put in tracking devices for trailer and car. And sadly, this is a legitimate thing anymore. What was it? In 2015, one of the drag weekers, Jason Tapskett, his GMC and his Camaro got lifted hours after drag week wrapped up, straight out of a parking lot of a restaurant in St. Louis. The truck came back. The truck went through 7 shades of hell. I don't think they ever found the Camaro.
I can tell you that I know that there are several race weekers that have GPS trackers in their cars. I know that we were having a conversation about it at Pueblo one time a couple of years ago, and Alex Taylor reached into an undisclosed location in her car and pulled out a tracker and said, "This is the one we use." And
I got some for winners. We got these donated. So these are the GPS trackers. So the bracket race winner's getting one, the overall winner's getting one, the rookie of the year's getting one, the young gun's getting one.
That's awesome.
And there's a deal on those. There's a deal on those for the rest of the week. So make sure you go check in.
Yeah, the rest of the week there's a deal on those. I think he's doing 20% off the whole deal.
What's the where is it that they have to go for that, Adam?
These are gettracking.net.
Okay, hold on. So it's hold on, I'm going to put the link in the description here. So it's gettracking.net. Okay,
well, and while you're talking about that too, go ahead.
Yep, these are out of Razor Tracking on Facebook.
Nice.
Is where we got these from, and yeah, he said, you know what, I like what you guys are doing here. These things are cool too because they're an annual subscription, not a monthly. I'm not getting paid for this. Yeah. He just said, hey, I'm going to sling you guys some, and I'm going to try to help you guys out a little bit.
Well, and that works way good too, because I tried last year to do it, and it's so hard. I couldn't transfer them. I was going to get them, and we were going to do something with them, but you couldn't transfer them. Plus, you got to pay this thing all the time. So it's cool that they do that. Another thing that we do with Race Week that is that we actually have security at the hotels. If you're within the vicinity of the hotels that we've picked, which we don't like to talk about online. I mean, obviously, if you're a criminal, you're going to figure out where we're at. It's not that hard to figure out, but we don't like to talk about where we're at. Yep. But we do, if you're in that vicinity of where that main hotel is, if we can get to it within, 4 or 5 blocks, we have security that goes through the parking lots to make sure. I mean, they do it all night long. Like matter of fact, our guys have had the cops called on them because they're going through the parking lot so much. The cops wanted to know what the hell these guys were doing going in and out of there all night. So,
which that's fine. Yeah, that's good. I will tell you that, Adam, we need to talk after this. I made a note, so I'll send you a message when we're done. But yeah, get a tracking device. Make sure. One other thing that I think is really important. We all know how to get a hold of each other because we have Facebook and we have our phone numbers and all those things. We can text and message and do all these things. But one other thing that's a safety item that I think is a smart thing to have is in your car, make sure that you've got something that has like contact information for, your wife or your husband or your kids or whatever that are not with you. You know what I mean, on Race Week, so that if you get broken down somewhere or whatever, then we can get, somebody else in touch with them, to help out as well. So,
well, and make sure that those numbers are current that they gave us. I mean, Like we generally know, we have a pretty good sense when somebody doesn't come in. We've had a couple of guys that they didn't show up, and we start making phone calls because some of these guys are driving solo and they're older gentlemen and whatnot. And we notice when they don't show up. So
like the guy in the International last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that everybody has a good time. And the other thing that I would say, when you're at this point, okay, in the prep or the thrash, whatever you want to call it, make your list, okay? Start, your packing and planning for your packing. If you're thrashing on the car and you get to like 11:30 at night or midnight at night tonight, and you're like, oh my God, I'm wore out and I can't think straight enough to continue working on the car, you can think straight enough to start getting your tools together. Okay. And Adam's made this comment before of working out of your trailer and out of your tool bag, leading up to the event. But if you haven't done that yet, then start organizing your tools and getting those things, out there. Start making the list. That's really important. Also,
another thing, Chad, I'd add to the list of things you should have. Some of that DEI or whoever, the heat wrap stuff.
Yeah.
To all different kinds of that, because either you or somebody else is going to need it because something's getting hot or it's a new car, or you change something or whatever, you're going to run into a problem, you're going to need it.
That's a great idea. That is good stuff to keep around, either the heat shield tape or the wrap or whatever. The other thing...
So you can buy a box or a deal of that header wrap and take it with you if nothing else.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, because you could lay that up, tape it up to something too.
Yep.
One of the other ones that's good, and I think you got to remember is... you got to take care of yourself, right? So you got to have your first aid kit for sure. You got to, that is like a absolutely got to have it.
I thought that's what the duct tape and the rags were for.
Yeah.
Pack extra prescription. If you have a prescription, don't just bring your 7 days. You might be stuck there for a couple more days. Bring all your pills that you need.
Yep.
Exactly.
Also have, some of that stuff you need to make sure you keep separate, if you will. So if you've got your 7 days in your luggage, right, keep your spare stuff in the trailer or something, right? So that
in the car,
or in the car. So it's not in the same place, so that if you leave something somewhere, you're not completely shit out of luck, Also, the first aid kit, do liquid bandage too. That stuff, it's just super glue with, FDA approval, but it really is just super glue. That's why super glue was invented. So it will glue you back together, dude, like a champ. I use that stuff all the time.
Got some right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, I got. Oh wait, no.
Hey, Chad, I got some.
I know. I see that. But also make sure you have a way to carry water and drinks and snacks, and in case you're stuck on the side of the road for 12 hours, you need to have that stuff,
And we need to, and with the talking about that stuff, we do have a lot of support too for you guys. Like, if you don't know, like we have a ton, like Force Performance Turbos is always on site with us. Motion Race Works, they put a trailer together. They started with us. They loaded that thing full of pumps and all kinds of things that you can imagine to help support that. We got Central Speed and Supply. They are involved with our stuff too. They have a ton of stuff. We have I have a welder on board of our trailer. I have lots of different knick-knacky things that you might need. I've been trying to collect rocker arms and all kinds of different things that guys might need. I've got belts. I've got a ton of stuff in my trailer. I have a Mini Cooper that you can use if you break something and you need to run to the parts store. We have that. We have a portable hoist, guys. They'll be here.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we also have Michael Schoonover. He's a mobile welder, fabricator. So if you break something, we've had a lot of hitches. This is one thing that we probably should talk about that we don't really talk about. Really pay attention to how your hitch is built on the front of your trailer, and make sure that like where the welding points are, that you have some kind of diamond or something over the weld, don't just have straight welds, because we've had so many trailers break the tongue off. You would not believe how many times that's happened. So
Or don't
That's a-
overload it.
well, yeah,
That's
especially
a
not the front.
great
A lot of
one
guys
though,
load too much
Matt.
to the front.
100%, because the trailer tongue or the hitch on the car. I mean, the number of times that we've seen these guys bolting something to the bumper on a '69 Camaro, and it doesn't go underneath, and it does. I mean, dude, that has torn stuff all to hell a bunch of times.
But we have welder guy. We have a mobile welder. He will be on route. We're generally, this year we have to kind of divert from route a little bit because we got to try to get the kids to their games and stuff along the way. But we try to make sure we're on the route just as much as you guys are. So if the timing's right, and generally we're usually behind everybody else when we leave, like we'll stop and drag the welder out for you or do whatever we need to do, the mobile welder guy. Or if you need the Mini Cooper, your car breaks and I've got an extra room in the trailer, we'll have my car will be in the trailer this year, but I will have another truck and trailer following along. So, we try to do everything we can to get you, if you're catastrophic failure, we try to get you to the next track, and we'll let you take the Mini Cooper to go get your truck and trailer and come back. Like, we try to do everything we can to make this a great experience for the racer, and we'll do everything we can to get you to where you need to go or get you fixed. And so is all these support teams. Like, I think out of all of the, I'm going to go ahead and flat out say that I believe this is the case. Out of all the drag and drive events there are, we probably have the most support at Rocky Mountain Race Week, that as far as that goes, is getting you back going. The guys that have put their time and energy into this and put stuff in their trailers, and along with us trying to make sure you will get there. If there's a possibility to fix it and get you there, it'll happen on this event.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And like I said when you started the drive days, the Rocky Mountain Race Week crew tends to bring back less steaming piles of shit at the end of the week. You've got a little more time to work on the thing and maintain it. And then with all of the support that's out there, it's amazing. And that's totally true. I think our attrition's about the same for catastrophic type stuff, but the stuff that's, maybe I need to get out, maybe I can stay in. We bring more of those guys back home.
Absolutely. And that's the drive days and the night racing. Some people kind of weren't sure about that at first. Well, the night racing part of it works because I think it finally lets things cool down. And here's why my big thought process was on the driving, the way we do it. Guys are like, I don't want to drive during the day because it's the heat of the day. I understand the heat of the day thing, but there's two things about that really help you out. One, if you break something during the day, the businesses are open. You're not waiting open. If you broke it. Yeah, you didn't wait till midnight. You broke down, and you got to wait till 8 o'clock in the morning to get parts. So there's your first thing. Secondly, you can drive all day, and you're going to be amped up to go run your car in the evening, right?
Yep.
If you race all day and you get in your car to go drive at night, that fatigue starts setting in, and you start getting tired. Plus animals, plus all the other stuff that goes along with that. So for me,
100%.
I feel like this is the safer way to do it, just because of the fact that you are going to be able to get back on the road quicker. There are places open. Plus, on the top of that, you're just not tired out there on the road.
100%.
Well, and
because the human body operates in daylight, regardless of how little sleep you have had. In the daylight, your brain and your body want to be awake. Okay, but when the sun goes down and you are wore out and you're falling asleep in a car going down the road with a bunch of other people in cars that already, in some cases, are not real great at driving down the road, it's just a recipe for disaster. You are 100%. It is way safer.
Plus, you get to race at night under the lights, and we have spectators.
Yes.
People come out like crazy to watch you guys race. And night racing is a whole different world. If you haven't done it, you're in for a treat. This is super fun.
It is. And
the atmosphere is just unbelievable. Yeah.
That's it. The atmosphere.
Is unbelievable.
It is. Mm-hmm. And we're racing at little racetracks. We're racing at big racetracks. I mean, and it is one thing that's cool about it is there'll be a jillion people watching at Bandamere, right? NHRA national event level racetrack. And there'll be a bunch of people watching there. Then we go to Kearney, Nebraska, where the grandstands are little, but they will be packed to the gills, and people will be cheering you as you go by, whether you ran, 590 or you ran 1350. Like, everybody is just loving it, and that part of it is just amazing,
And that's where you need both.
Yes.
You've got to have both. You got to have both. Well, there's all this controversy all the time about the fast car, the slow car, blah, 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 this, the blah, 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 that. Well, here's the thing, okay? We all love to watch the fast cars. I absolutely love that. But you know what? It doesn't change it for me to watch the guys that are the slower cars too, because they're still out there doing personal best. They're still doing some of the stuff. And honestly, when you look at it at the end of the day, the average guy, yeah, he wants to watch those cars, but he also is paying attention to what's going on with these guys that are running these slower cars, because that's attainable for him. You know,
Yep.
this is where we get with the sport. We get so far away from the reality of it. You know, it was like back in the day. What you watch, race on Sunday, buy on Mondays. What they said. It's because you knew that car that you watched, you could go buy that. It was a production built car that you could buy.
Yeah, right.
So
and slower is so relative.
Yeah.
Slower is so relative. You could have an 1150 car on this kind of thing, and you can be slow. But dude, an 1150 street car is a fast ass street car.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You just it's like buying a TV at Best Buy. That TV looks sweet because it's sitting next to that crappy TV. But you bring the crappy TV home, it's still kick ass. It's still way better than your 32-inch, CRT that you're replacing. So, but no, I totally agree. You can take the guy that's in the 14-second class, and he's looking at the 10.0 guys, and he's going, "Man, I'd be so cool if my car ran 10.0." And then he gets his car to 10.0, and then he's going, "Man, that 850 class looks really fun." And you have those steps as you go along.
And that's how it should be.
It progresses
100%. And again, it's all
plus just
relative.
The oddball stuff.
Totally, the 14.0 class is
totally radical and weird, and it only may run a 20. But I want that there because watching that cool weird shit go down the track, I enjoy it, and I know a lot of people do. Like some of the things that we've seen show up, and you're like, "Holy crap!"
Exactly.
That thing's cool.
And it's just so nice.
I agree completely. Well, and I'm going to call Crosby out on this one right now. Crosby knows that sometimes you build a car that is, intended to be the most extreme, right? And it's supposed to be one of the most extreme race cars out there. But you still, if it's supposed to be a street car, you still want to be able to drive it. You want to do all those things.
Why ever would you call me out on that?
Well, no, because the 32 is like, how extreme that thing is compared to most people's cars. And it's not a drag car, it's a pro touring car. But even when some organization said, "Oh no, that thing's too radical, you can't come race it with us," that didn't stop you guys from racing at other places and still having fun with it.
Yeah. If you're not having fun, stop doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the message that we absolutely need to make sure we see. And now I'm going to call McTaggart out. McTaggart has been like living I'm going to use the term nightmare. It isn't that bad. But he has been struggling with his car for going to events the last couple of months. And he's had some electrical issues and a couple other things. But he continues to keep working on this thing in order to get this car to be a nice, reliable driver. And because that's what we do. So even if you're at home and you're still thrashing and you took a test drive today and something didn't work right, keep working on it, right? I mean,
is this the wrong year charger?
Yes.
It is. So,
okay.
So the main thing with the charger, the thing that Chad's loving to rub salt in right now.
No, I'm not, I swear.
Oh, bullshit. You do. So I am running an electric fuel pump on a carbureted setup with a regulator, mainly because the factory setting units for that year charger don't fucking exist anywhere, and mainly because I have had my eye on upgrades later on, whether it be a Gen 3 Hemi swap, whether that be a Terminator X or a Sniper or whatever.
Yeah.
I want this thing to be driven. The whole goal of that car was to drive, because the prior project car, the Imperial, made one good road trip in its entire life with me and then promptly shit the bed and stayed dead for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I haven't had much luck before that either. So the goal is keep pecking at it here, there, find things to fix. Recently, we took that car to the Summer Nights Cruise in Kentucky, which is about 160-something miles away from me one way. And for the first time ever, that thing didn't bitch. That thing didn't break down. It didn't choke out. It didn't heat up. It didn't stall out. It didn't just drop power for no reason whatsoever. It made it there. It made it back. The only thing that broke was the windshield wiper bushings, and on a Mopar of that age, that shit happens. So,
see,
all I call it a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly my point. So everybody that's out there, like, we want you to come out, whether it's Rocky Mountain Race Week, whether it's, any of the other drag and drive events, whether it's Hot Rod Power Tour, which is coming up next week, like, go out there and drive your stuff and enjoy it. And remember, if you're out there and you're like, God, I'm looking for a fun event to do, remember that Rocky Mountain Road Week, okay, which is the go and cruise with us, and you just aren't in the official race portion of it, you're totally welcome to join us. Come down. Like, show up to day one and sign up, and you'll get shirt and the windshield banner and all the stuff, and you get wristbands for your entry into all the racetracks. You get to be a part of all of the fun. And again, 99% of the fun is the road trip, not the racing part. So,
well, and really, what we're doing, go ahead, Adam.
Oh, and even if you don't sign up for Road Week, if you're within an hour of one of these tracks, pull your rusty piece of shit out of the garage and take it to the racetrack to watch racing.
Yes.
Please do that. We want to watch you driving in your clunker and drive out in your clunker. And then next year, we want to see you on either Road Week or Race Week. But bring your stuff out and come watch the races. They start at 3 local at all of our tracks. So, even if you got a job that goes till 5, come on out. Watch the stuff. We're running till 11 o'clock every night. And that last day at Great Bend, we're running all day, 8 a.m. until probably 8 p.m. Until we're done. And it's going to be super duper fun. So bring your stuff out for that for sure. If you got a week off and you want to go hang out, sign up for Road Week, and Matt can talk about that some more. But for sure, if you're within an hour of any of these tracks and you're not at the track, you're wrong.
Please. Yes.
Well, and Road Week, we got tons. We've got it's basically like, okay, who helped out the most, or the car show, who has the favorite car. Like, there's a voting for the Road Weekers, and there's big money to be made to be a Road Weeker.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that can go on with that where we include you as much as possible. And what I want to talk, something I said, I put it on the post the other day. This event, which we call it 1.0. I don't like 1.0 because I don't like 1.0, 2.0. But so we call it Rocky Mountain Race Week, and the other one's Race Week.
Yeah.
This is probably the most enduring event of these kind of events that's happening at this point in time. Like, you are going through altitude changes that are unbelievable. You're going through the mountains. You got, it's hot. Like, there's so much stuff that goes on with this. Your drives are super long. There's 2 drives that are 350, 400 miles, right? So as of this year, if you can make it, I haven't decided whether I'm going to wait until all the way to the end or if you get halfway through it, because I feel like halfway through is a big deal. We'll have a certified streetcar sticker. You will be Rocky Mountain certified streetcar, because if you can do this event and you can get through,
awesome.
What we have, your car is a legit streetcar. Like, there's nobody can dispute that. And if you take your Rocky Mountain Race Week banner off of your car and forget about that, you're wrong, as Adam says, because this is a huge deal for you to be able to make it through this deal and complete it. Like I said, your transmission's going to cry, scream, and your tuner's going to cry, because the fact of what you're doing and how all the different elevations and everything that's going on, when you complete this event, this is a huge deal for you to complete this event.
100%. And
I agree wholeheartedly.
And we're also looking at, Matt was talking about earlier, we're going to do a Road Week to Race Week path. So a couple of dudes we're going to pick to get them entries into Race Week for next year.
Yep.
So that's going to be a super cool deal. So, if you end up as a Race Week dude and you do some cool stuff and you do, a little above and beyond, then Matt's going to work that out to where you don't have to wait in line. You'll get your entry for next year. It won't be free, but you won't have to stand in line with everybody else.
You got that pass. Right. And the other thing is like, I kind of wanted to talk about, everybody was so worried about not being, we're only got 40 cars in, they're newbies or whatever, this year. Well, I stayed the path of how I laid that out because COVID screwed everything up. Like it just messed up everything. We oversold, so that didn't help us. Plus, on top of that, the computer system oversold it. But on top of that, everybody's car was pretty much ready to go because people were at home and they were working on their stuff. So everybody was mad. Like, oh, you only got 25, 30 cars that were allowed in, that weren't, pioneers. Well, I can tell you that we're probably with what got signed up, we're 39 off the wait list, and I think there was 40 cars that were new cars that signed up originally. So my system is working exactly how I thought it was supposed to work, how it was intended, and that's why I didn't change it, because we're going back to where everything's normal again to a certain extent, right? I mean, it's not normal, but we're getting to that point to where this works itself out. So if you got on that waiting list, and you're on the beginning of that waiting list, like I said, 38 people have gotten off that waiting list if they wanted to go get on this time. Plus the other 40 cars or whatever that were new cars, they got to sign up. So I want you, as you go forward, when we get to sign up next year and everybody's like, man, the pioneers, blah, blah, blah. Well, the reason I do that is because we want to keep the culture of this event. If you bring all new people in, there's nobody to teach you the way. There's nobody to be there for you. So we blend that together, and that's what keeps this event as a family event. It's what also the other reason that I do that as a pioneer situation like that is it gives you a place to go, so you're willing to spend that money on your car to go faster next year. You have that home, to do that. And you might complain about it when you're not in that position, but when you get into that position, you're like, hell yeah, now I know that I can try to go a second faster, and I know I'm going to be able to get into that. And and that's sometimes you fall out, and sometimes it's harder to get back in. That there is that part of it, and that's why I think so many people try to keep that status. But if you wanted to know why, that is all what it comes down to. This culture of this event and the people that are involved in this event, it's what makes it special. And until you get into that, I don't think you understand.
It's the soul of the event, 100%. And there's people that have been doing this since the event first started.
Yeah.
And there's people that just got in last year. And if you ask a bunch of them the same kind of questions, they all agree that once you finish it, there's a reason that legacy thing exists, because the culture of it and the soul of it is the backbone of it. It's not just taking money. It's not just a race. This is something that we do, that we get to see our family once or twice a year. It's a lifestyle. Important.
It's a lifestyle.
It is 100% a lifestyle. 100% a lifestyle. And it's not like anything else in the world.
No, not at all. There is nothing like it. But the other thing that I think is important to note about the pioneer status, which if you're just joining us means that if you have already been entered in Rocky Mountain Race Week the previous year, then you get to do early registration 1 day early. The following year, so that people that have been doing it get the first chance to register. Well, dude, that is important, because I know that I talked to a guy on Sick Week who said he did Drag Week 4 years ago, and 5 years ago, whatever it was, did Drag Week, and then went, okay, I'm going to save up some money. I'm going to do a bunch of cool stuff to my car. He took a year off and did a bunch of stuff to his car, literally put 15 grand into his car, 20 grand into his car, has the thing all dialed in, and hasn't been able to get into any of the events. He's tried to register and couldn't, because he worked the wrong hours. He did whatever, and it just didn't work out. And so here he was at Sick Week watching, and he was totally disappointed because he couldn't participate. And so, the more of these events there are, obviously, the better on one hand, but also I think that treating the people that support the events right is absolutely matters, and you guys do a great job of that. There's no doubt. And for all of the people that are participate or work on this event or are involved in any way, shape, or form, it's we all have a certain amount of ownership, if you will. We feel like it belongs to us, and that's something that you don't get everywhere, But I would say that anybody that's out there that's watching tonight who, wants to do a drag and drive event, then obviously Rocky Mountain Race Week and Race Week are two events that you should, look at.
But get in it. If you can get in one somewhere, get in somewhere. Like,
yes,
there is a very, very small community of people that will ever in their lifetime be able to say that they've done an event like this. It doesn't matter which one it is. Obviously we think ours is better. Obviously we think we do things better. We think that this is the elite one or whatever because it's our event. That's just natural that's how we're going to think, right? But the reality of it is with the ones that are coming out, it makes me worry because I worry that maybe it'll get diluted and people won't come. They're going to come. So it's not something to worry about. If you see one come up, there's some stuff that's going on where the guys are doing, a 3-day event, or they're doing, a 2-track deal or whatever in your hometown or whatever. Do it, because that is something that you can live with for the rest of your life, knowing that you did it, and you're a very small part of a community and you don't understand how much it means to you and your kids, and if you're my age and you take your dad, your elder dad to go with you, and you guys go out on the road or whatever, and you go down through these small towns at 55, 60 mile an hour, and you see these places that you would never see because you're never running on these 2-lane roads ever in your lifetime. These are things that you can never replace in your entire life. It's memories that will never, and your kids will you'll think with your kids when they want to, the little kids and stuff like that, they're not going to be into this. I'm telling you, what we found is when these kids come on these events, it changes the kids. They really get to see what life really is about.
Oh yeah.
How much people work together. We live in such this fast-paced world anymore, and nobody gives a crap about nobody. Nobody stops to help you if you're on the side of the road. Nobody gets over if you're on the side of the road. And it's just when you go into these small towns and you go into, middle America and you stop. We had a gas station that we all stopped at, and we made that guy's, he sold his fuel out, and he hadn't done that in I don't know how long. Like it made his day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he said he had never sold out that gas station ever.
So
and he was like,
stuff like that.
Yeah, he was like he thought he was maybe 2 to 3 months from having to go belly up, and that day made his next month.
See,
yeah,
so
that's cool.
it's huge.
It's just amazing.
Huge.
It's just amazing.
And how many? So I've been all across the country in a car for as a kid growing up, and on a bajillion power tours, drag weeks, Rocky Mountain Race Week, et cetera, et cetera. Crosby and I have road tripped all over hell and gone.
Yeah.
We drove for a week.
Shit, I've been all over the country on a motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, how many of these adventures still are the things we all talk about, right?
Yeah. Because when you're sitting around talking, drinking beer, and hanging out, who wants to talk about where you went and bought a pair of shoes or something? Who cares? You want to talk about the stupid things you've done on the road or who you did them with.
Yep.
You don't have those stories just sitting home by yourself watching TV. It doesn't happen that way.
And more importantly, you don't get those stories hitting the interstate either. I've been
right.
We've all been all over. We know the fast way to get there is obviously you hit the interstate, you click it on 85, and you stop at a Pilot J when you need to hit the can and top off.
Yeah.
You don't see that on these trips. I've done both Rocky Mountain and Race Week. The best thing to me about it is it's my backyard. I'm from Colorado Springs. It's my hometown. But the whole thing about it, between all of it, you see everything. You want to go dip your feet in a mountain creek? Here's your chance. You want to go stop at a restaurant nobody looks at any of the day of the week except the locals? Trust me, stop in there. You're going to eat better than you have all week. Talk to people in the gas station that's, there's a corn silo and there's a bird flying. And that's the only other thing you see. There's something to be said about the peace and quiet of just being out on a 2-lane.
Yeah. And that farmer, you're making that story for that farmer that stopped and helped you or had to weld up your stuff or whatever in that small little town. That stuff
standing there with the sign saying burn them.
Yeah, it does stuff for them too. Like it changes they don't get, maybe they're, in those little places like that, like I like to look at it as they're like 20 years behind us in a lot of these places, which is not a bad thing. That's what's great about those areas is they live a simple life. And we don't even understand what that is when we're from these crazy towns that we live in and stuff like that. So when you go through there with these crazy cars, and they get to. It's like that's changing their life just as much as it changes ours. And I think what's great about it is you can go all year long, and you have something that in your head that just nobody else gets, and most of America will never get what we're doing or how it is because they've never experienced that. I bet you there's probably people who live their entire life that have never got off of the highway and drove down a 2-lane road and seen that old 32 Ford Coupe or whatever sitting in the field or this or that. It may not be a big deal to them, but it is to me because I love it. Like that's the stuff, I remember, and it kind of brings us back to the roots of back in the day when everybody was going 55 mile an hour and you bumper pulled your car to the track or whatever with your tow bar, that was the stuff. And you thought forever, it took you like 4 days to get somewhere, it seemed like, but that's what I want to do now. Like, I don't want to be in a hurry. I want to slow down and smell the roses, I guess is what you would call it. So,
well, and it gives people a different perception on people from different places as well.
Yes.
Because everybody thinks everybody outside their little town or whatever, especially if you're from California, that you're some freaking asshole Democrat or whatever, and you don't care about anybody. But when you stop on the side of the road and help them out, or they stop and help you out, and you're saying please and thank you, a T-shirt in the middle of nowhere to these people is like huge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
you're 100% right.
I have never been able to pay somebody that stopped and helped me on the side of the road.
No.
Because they just felt good about it.
And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it really is. The thing is that we live in a time where everybody hates everybody for any little difference. And the truth of the matter is good human beings are good human beings. And it doesn't matter about any of the rest of it. Right?
Amen.
It just doesn't. And
well, what's crazy is the big cities that we're around, like your Denver or like say your Boulder or, all your big metropolises, they dictate what happens to the rest of the world. And they don't even know what the hell is going on because they're the ones that hate everybody, but they don't realize that that's not how everybody lives.
They don't even know those people.
90% of the people live in a way that they would never act that way. And that's when they live in those areas. I don't know if it's just, maybe they breathe too much of the gases or whatever, or there's, whatever the deal is, but they don't understand that that's not how real world is. That's just like they live in this damn this bubble or whatever. And they think that's how it is, and it isn't that way. If they would understand that most people are super good people, hardworking people, we wouldn't have half the shit that we have going on right now.
No, and
exactly.
I can tell you on Drag Week and Power Tour and Race Week and all of these, some of the coolest people that I've met all across the country that have all kinds of jobs that are, that like you said, that are rural town jobs, right? Not big city jobs. I mean, that's awesome. But the other part about it is the number of places that, we've gotten to see and experience that are just cool little like tidbits, right? Yeah. I know that me and I don't think McTaggart wasn't with us. It was me and Mike and Scott Liggett last year driving through one of the little towns. There was some little tiny trailer selling tacos that we saw, and we went down the road, turned around, came back and parked there and ordered tacos and sat there eating tacos, watching everybody else drive by and sending text messages with pictures of the tacos to everybody else. And they're like, wait, where the hell are you?
Send that picture to me, you dick.
There you go. That's right. See, McTaggart
here's the best comment of the night is Clint Sadowski.
Yes.
And if you don't know Clint Sadowski, I'm going to read the comment first, and I'll tell you a little bit about Clint Sadowski. He says, I've done a lot of shit in my life. Drag and drive events are my greatest memories. Yeah. If you don't know Clint Sadowski, Clint pitched in the major leagues.
Yes.
He was a pitcher for like almost every big league team that there is. The man struck out Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
Ooh. He left that and started riding motocross.
Right.
Left that, and he didn't really leave that. He's still doing that.
Yeah.
And now he's pretty much coaching his daughter.
When he falls now.
Right, exactly. And for a dude like that who has lived that life to say that drag and drive are his greatest memories, that says everything.
It says 100% of everything.
And everybody that knows me knows that I don't care at all about like stick and ball sports or any of that junk. But so like I didn't know Clint was a major league pitcher at all until I'd known him for a while. And then somebody said, I'm like, I've heard this, but what are you talking about? Like I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
Shit,
I didn't know either because I'm not a sports guy either. But June and the kids are nuts about it, and they're like, that he was like, I'm like, well, that's cool. I just helped him change his tires out,
Yeah.
So it was like, so it's just stuff like that. Like, and we don't, and that's the thing. I think that's another thing. Like, we don't try to. There's a lot of obviously who are big, big names in what we do.
Hey,
I don't try to exploit that with what we do. Like, we've had some stuff, we're 405 guys have showed up, or you've got Cletus and stuff like that. Like, I don't try to push that because if they feel like they want to just come do this and just have a normal deal, which doesn't ever happen because, everybody always knows when these guys are doing this. But I want you to have just as good experience, whether you're, Bo Duke or whoever you are, whatever, to come run this deal. And you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff because that's not what it's about for us. I guess it's really cool with the whole group of all of us that do this, Adam and you, Chad, and everybody that's involved with whatever we've done. We're all serious race car people, and we're all about the people. That's what it's about for us. It's not about anything else. Like it's about this culture, and it's about racing and whatever. And none of the other stuff matters to us when it comes down to it at the end of the day. And that's probably why, there's lots of things that we probably mess up and screw up, and maybe it's not perfect, and maybe, our website's not the greatest or this or that, but that's not really what we're here about. That's not what we're here to focus on.
No.
We do need spectators. We do need people to come and buy shirts and stuff like that because that helps, make this work, and we have to have that financially. But that's not what this is about for us. That's our motor to keep us going, but that's not what this is about. This was always about racers, and it's 100% by racers for racers because that's the heart and soul of how this became, and that was what I wanted it to be. And it's turned so much more into it being about family and generations of kids growing up. We've watched a lot of young people do great things that have come out of this. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that's happened out of here. We've watched all of our kids do this, and now we're even starting this deal now where it's the junior deal where the young kids can drive the cars at 13. If you go get your license now at 13 to 16 years old, you can do junior racing. So now we're saying, okay, well, if mom and dad want, this is a pilot deal, but if mom and dad will, go with you, and they'll obviously drive you from track to track and ride with you down the track, we want that to happen because we want these younger generations to be coming into this.
Absolutely. And this year too, we've started the Wicked Chick Awards, which I was working on today, and Dustin is doing the decals for it. So every female driver will be getting a pair of decals that say Wicked Chick. We're going to change the color up every year of the Wicked Chick stickers so you can stack them and do whatever you want. But we're doing the Wicked Chick decal, so every female racer will get 2 of those. They're going to put 1 on each side of the car, like quarter window size. They're like 8 inches, long or whatever. Adam will be able to see them from the tower, which will be cool when we're announcing. And we have finishing up the trophy. There's a big special trophy for that and some other awards. The winner of the most Wicked Chick, so to speak, who is going to be judged by a cool panel of people that Cody Hansen and I are picking, is going to win the big trophy, but there's going to be a couple other little things too. And the big trophy also comes with a custom-made fire suit for the woman that wins, cool. Which is neat. Nice. And so, we're just trying to support people, and the number of women that we have seen who came to watch their husbands, then came to ride with their husbands, and then came with their own cars there's a bunch of them. And we have 20 women who are entered this year that are drivers. That's not total women coming. That's drivers, 20 women. And when you consider that, this is a pretty hardcore deal, that's awesome. That's a good percentage. I'd love to see another 20, but I think it's great. And I love it. And I think it's all part of the entire experience. And someday, June's going to want to do it too.
And we're working on her car right now. We're building a car for her. And I think, obviously this is really hard for us to do it on our own event. It's not possible for us to do that, but we are going to go out and do some of the other events so we can do that. And I want her to have her car, and she loves to roll through the gear. She's a stick
shifts, baby.
Her car's gonna, So she that's what we're setting it up at. Is I'm doing it at LS deal on nitrous so that it will be really reliable as far as the motor side of it, but you still have the power. And I got the killer transmission and trying to make it so that it's not a big issue to have to work on. But I want her to be able to experience it from that side of it because I've always I've done our own event a couple times plus before it got busy plus drag week or whatever, but she's never got to experience it from that side of it. So I think that would be a whole new perspective for her, and she's gonna love it. So
and it's gonna be super cool. Like Matt said, we just haven't had the chance to run our stuff while we're kind of running the event. It's just not possible. There's just too much to do, and we have to be the first ones there and the last ones to leave at this. So it's just tough. I could literally do it in a 14.0 car, but the Hulk, come on, man. I mean,
but even you though, when you're out there changing axles and then you get a late start, that's hard on you. No,
it's tough. It's tough, but it'll be really cool because it'll be nice for all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean Chad, I mean Mick T, I mean Matt, I mean June. All of us it'll be really cool to go to one of these other events and just sit back and kick our feet up and complain about how bad they're doing it.
Dude, well, no, it's funny, but literally Matt and I literally had this conversation yesterday or day before yesterday and said, and Matt says, do you want to go do one of these events so that you can come and bring your car and we can get all of us you, Adam, too. And so that we could all go and enjoy being together doing a trip because we don't get to race hardly anymore, and I said, yes, I'm in. We're at we do our own little group and go do it. I'm all in, So, and I mean, I think that's important for people to understand too, that while we're some, the crew, quote unquote, of this thing, we all we are the crew because we started out just participating. This is what we love doing,
And we're gonna definitely get out and go do it again. But that's why this is different. It is no shit by racers for racers. Matt has the last say in anything. But the nice thing is that Matt's not a dude in a suit in California that does this for 3 weeks out of his 52-week year. No. Matt is a dude that's done this, has run this thing since day one, and continues to make it innovative as it kind of continues down the road. And that's why this is different.
And we can make decisions. We can make a decision on the fly. And I don't expect you to know everything. And that, and I make mistakes too. And that's what people have to understand is we're all, at the end of the day, we're still human beings. We make mistakes. There's something, I can't foresee everything. I've had some situations where people are screaming at me and mad at me and whatever because of something. Listen, I can't always foresee everything. So we are going to make mistakes. That's part of what this event is. If you want it to be straight by the board, you're at the wrong place because if you come to me and say, hey, I pushed through the lights, man, and my time ticket didn't show up or whatever, and I'm out of time or whatever, I'm going to run you in and I'm going to get you in there. And it's going to make somebody else, well, why did he get, and it's always this happens for everybody across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're, the highest guy on the list or you're the slowest guy on the list or whatever. I don't care. If you come to me, you tell me there's a problem, I'm going to do everything I can. And if there's something going on in the lanes and stuff like that, we have a guy that's going to help us, Ron, this year. But I can tell you when something happens, you'll see me be out there and I will try to do everything I can to fix it and make it right for you. It's very personal for me. And sometimes I probably let that get a hold of me and I get a little heated sometimes and I apologize. I'm sure I've pissed some people off and I'm sure that, I've made some wrong calls, but at the end of the day, that's what this is about. It's not stuck in stone and things can be changed and fixed. And that's because I'm allowed to do that. There's nobody telling me, we don't have sponsors over my back telling me I can only do things a certain way or anything like that. Our sponsors are our sponsors under the understanding that this runs the way that it runs and you're either with it or you're not, because I won't take a big corporate sponsor that's going to tell us how we're going to run our race.
No.
Good.
And that's absolutely the right, way to go about it. And I hope that, people that are watching this, that are going on Rocky Mountain Race Week are as excited about it as we are. I hope that people that are considering going on Road Week, I hope you show up. If you are somebody that's getting ready to go on Power Tour, I've got my Facebook Messenger over here running, and Matt Graves from American Powertrain, who's our presenting sponsor here tonight, he's thrashing on his own LS powered 6-speed equipped Cadillac. Oh, by the way, it's a 79.
Nice.
And he's thrashing on it right now, getting some stuff ready for Power Tour that he's added to it over the last couple of months. So all the people that are out there that you guys are working on your stuff, or you're prepping your stuff, getting ready to go on a road trip, whether it's like Run to the Coast and you're going to go for 2 days or 3 days, or it's some other car show, it's a good guy show and you're going to road trip there. It's Power Tour, it's Race Week, it's Rocky Mountain Race Week or Drag Week or any of them. Dude, get out there, work on your car, get it ready. Get all of your spares, get your safety stuff and all those things, and go out there and enjoy it and have fun. Now is the time. Remember, 1 hour a night, you can get an exceptional amount of stuff done. Amazing amounts of stuff. I mean, Matt, you thrashed on your car and on June's car like 1 or 2 hours a night for a long time to get that thing done.
Yeah. And it took me, and it still didn't get done in the time frame that I wanted it to be done. But you just keep plugging away. You just try to get it done, and you're gonna run into problems. You're gonna have a part problem, or you're gonna have this or that. You just gotta keep working around it and keep going. And we're in hard times right now with the part supply situations and stuff like that. So if you get a roadblock on something, go cut something down on your smaller list of things that are easier to do. Like, just continue to keep moving forward. Sitting on the couch thinking about it, don't get her done. I can tell you that.
No. And for those of you that are out there that are Rocky Mountain Race Weekers, if you are, you're got a little over a week left, and you're thrashing and you're like, oh my God, I can't get this part or whatever, please post up on RMRWers what you need. People will help you. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're a Power Tour person, and you're looking for help, go on the forums at Powershift.com, go to Forum Freaks section there, and you can go in there, and there are a jillion people that do Power Tour every year that will help you. Go to the companies that sponsor Power Tour or sponsor Race Week. Those guys will help you get in and get parts and what have you. They're great resources, even if it's something they don't have,
So Power Tour, Derek from Vice Grip Garage, who was one of our sponsors for last year and ran with us for a little bit last year, posted up, if your car is down and it's junk for Power Tour, send him an email, and I think it's vicegripgarage@gmail.com. He will give you a car to drive on Power Tour if you can produce insurance for it.
That is awesome.
Wow.
Super
I
cool.
love it. Yeah, because he has so much stuff that runs.
He's got a bunch of junk that he's driven back to his house.
Yeah.
So
he puts 500 miles on him to get back to the house, so he's already got all the bugs.
No, exactly. So the shit's going to get around, or it's wore out. Either way.
Maybe both. Why not both?
and we love Derek. Like, when Derek first got started, McTaggart started running his videos on Powershift, and I have to say, like, we know a lot of people that are, influencers or celebrities or whatever on YouTube and stuff. Derek is a legit, like, super nice guy.
That dude
very
is
humble.
100%. That's the dude you see on the videos.
Yes.
Minus a little bit of the kind of sarcasm and funny.
Yes. And
that is the dude.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
That is the dude.
And he is
super
so
nice
appreciative for everything that he's, accomplished. I mean, I know that he's told this to McTaggart a million times. He's told it to me a million times too. Is he, always thanks us for having run his stuff when it was, when he was growing the channel and all those things. And that's awesome because you want to support people like that. And these events, Rocky Mountain Race Week 2.0. I mean, all those events, these guys come on these things, and they come because they want to have a good time. And you will get a chance to hang out with some of these guys in a hotel parking lot, drinking a barley pop and enjoying. And I will tell you, if you want the way to Derek's heart, hi, I have a cold beer. My name is Chad. Like, he's like, why? Thank you, Chad. How are you today? I mean, so yeah, good people. And you can hang out with lots of fun folks, and you'll meet new friends. I mean, the number of people I met Matt before race week, but it was all through this. It was all still through race cars and drag and drive cars. I met Adam on race week. Like, so many of the people that we have met because of this. McTaggart,
we met
his wife on our forums on Bang Shift. That's how they met. They got married. McTaggart worked for us, still works for us. Crosby and I met through car stuff. I mean, that's how all of this works, people.
And you might get discovered on one of these events. I mean, it sounds really weird, but it is like a lot of stuff has happened. I mean, I don't know if Adam wants to call it discovered or whatever, but Adam was, a racer, and now he's the main. He's the face of this deal. Like, he's he's the one that does all that. Like, so that kind of went that way. And you can look at some of the other. I'm not going to say names because I don't want to say, oh well, we did this or whatever. But there is quite a few people that, with being on these events or whatever, and having so much exposure with everything that's going on, that helped them get where they were looking to go in a certain sense. Like, I like to think in at least in a little bit of a way that's how that happened. So,
I agree.
If you won't say it, I will. Alex Taylor. I mean, she comes out to all these events. She busts her ass. I've seen her personally in a parking lot in a hotel in Pueblo, ripping the transmission out for what felt like the 19th time in the week.
Yeah.
Up to her armpits and shit. That girl is legit.
And she started doing drag and drive events.
Right.
That's how it was drag week and moving forward. I mean, she 100% has grown up and become who she is on these kinds of events,
Yeah, the very first Rocky Mountain Race Week, she and I were kind of walking around in the pits after the event was over, and she won the Kids' Choice Award.
Yeah.
And I think she got $100. I think it was. And she held her $100 up in front of me, and she said, this is the most money I've ever won with my car.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And
and personal best. We've seen so many personal bests that have happened with her on these 100%. Events and stuff like that. Like, like we talked, we've watched these kids grow up. I mean, Cole's a prime example. He was just a young boy when he started, and he's got his own thing going on or whatever, and he's successful at what he's doing with all of the video and the pictures and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of that, and it's not the event that does it, but I think it's just the exposure when you're a YouTuber or you're doing what you're doing. Like, you get that week. I look at it this way, like, for a week, no matter who you are at this event, you're a superstar. Like, to have Kyle from 1320 go up and talk to a 16 or 17-year-old kid about the run that he just made, and that was that kid's first time, regardless of whether that kid goes anywhere because of the deal or whatever, he gets to go back home and be like, dudes,
I was on 1320.
I was on 1320, right? So,
dude,
one of the best.
100% that is me. I mean, I built a car, took it on Hot Rod Power Tour in 2005. It knocked the world on its ass. Everybody was in love with the car. They ended up doing a bunch of stuff with Hot Rod TV with me. And then Drag Week was the same year. I went to Drag Week in that car. And the next thing you know, Hot Rod's hiring me to be the voice of their events. And we're doing all these things. And all of that happened because of that car, which, by the way, will be back out running drag and drive events next year. And
he hasn't shut up since.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
let me throw Rince
heard it here first.
Because you said those things. There's one thing I want to clarify. It's not a matter of you hit Drag Week or you found me after you basically threw Freiburger's breakfast at me and told me to hit the road in Bonneville. That's legit. I still owe Freiburger donuts.
Yeah.
The thing is, and the one thing that everybody's trying to tell you guys tonight, you have to be there. Regardless, if you aren't there, you don't experience the open road. You don't see that sunset at 80 miles an hour and BFE with the amber waves green, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't hit the track. You don't get your personal best. You don't break shit. You don't fix shit. You don't. You're not there. And you can't do that shit until you get there. You know?
That
We can preach
100%.
that to our heart's content. I can show you photos. We've got the videos from the years that we've stacked up, all the live stuff that I've streamed for you guys over the years that Chad's brought to you guys. Adam could tell you until he blows his voice out like he usually does every week. Matt could show you the map and tell you everywhere to stop. It doesn't mean a fucking thing until you actually hit the road and go do it. And that is the biggest thing I'll preach until I'm blue in the face about it.
And you're going to learn something every time.
Yes.
You do.
Yeah, you are going to learn something about yourself. You're going to learn something about your car. You are 100% right, dude. There is everything else is, is pointers and tips. But ultimately, get out there and do it, and you will have a great time. And
you can teach other people what you've learned from your processes of dealing with problems or breakdowns or even just where to go, where to stop, or which way not to go, especially for a lot of people.
One of the absolute very best things about all of these events is where in one section do you get all the world-class photographers?
Yeah.
Right.
Drag and Drive,
Right.
Power Tour,
Yep.
XYZ. They can make your piece of total shit polish up like crazy on photos. And they all have a really cool. They all have a really cool 1320 watermark right here. And you know what? Back when we started doing this type of stuff, that hot rod watermark, that 1320 watermark, that bang shift watermark was it. You were on the pinnacle of this world.
Right.
And there's no other place where you're going to have all of that talent to make you look your best than on one of these.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Superstar for a week. That's what I'm telling you. Superstar
100%.
for a week. You are a superstar for a week because everybody's out there watching you. And the thing is, and that's all that matters to you. For that entire week, those cars, that crew, those drives is what matters to you. Nothing else matters. When you get to that point where it's, you go home and it sucks because reality set in, and now you don't get another day of this, and you want it to end because you're tired and whatever. But then when you realize, you're like, holy shit, that was like the coolest thing I've done in my entire life.
Seriously, after getting the absolute dog shit kicked out of you for a week, the next day back at work, you're like, man, can we do this for another week?
Yeah. Oh, 100%, because you will be absolutely destroyed. You get home, you're like, oh, thank God, a night in my own bed. You're like so happy. You wake up the next day and you're like, shit, we aren't walking out of a hotel to go racing.
I have to go to work.
Your sunburns, it hits you when you cross into your state line. You know you're close home. You're like, God damn it.
And I turn around and go back. All right. Well, we've been on for 2 hours tonight. I think that's pretty good. Again, if you are, if you're coming on Rocky Mountain Race Week or on Road Week and you have any questions, you need anything, go to RMRWers, RMRWERS on Facebook. We will get you sorted.
Answer the 3 questions. That's like the only, you don't have to even put, the idea is I put on there like your favorite aftermarket company. I don't want you to suck up and put motion on there.
No,
what I'm looking for is that you put something that's not yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. To prove you're not a robot. That's all we care.
I just need to know that you can type something in an intelligent manner in English. And then you can get on.
And then all I have to say is keep working on your junk. If you need help, let us know. Do not forget your safety gear. If your seat belts are out, if your jacket, your gloves, your helmet, any of those things, you have time to fix that, right? We have Summit. It'll ship things overnight. We have Jegs. They will ship things overnight. We have Motion. They will ship things overnight. Like, you can get parts right now, no problem, if there's stuff that's in stock, and those things are. So do not get to the racetrack and find that you're out of luck, okay?
Well,
also, go ahead, Matt.
Keep putting those videos. If you're done with your car and you're ready and your trailer, make a video. Show me your insurance. Show me your registration. Show me your license. Show me all your lights work, your horn, all that stuff. Send it through a messenger. You can send it through my own messenger or whatever, or I put my phone number on the RMRW page. You can text it to me or whatever. That's working very well. A lot of guys have showed me that their neutral safety switch works, which you're still going to have to do at tech because NHRA tech's different than my tech. But they've showed me that their helmets are good. And that's just a good thing for you to do. Go ahead and go through those motions because you might see something that you didn't really realize was bad, and you can get that corrected before we get there. It's working really well. It's going to help us stay out of the sun all day long because we'll have half the cars to tech. Plus, it gives us time to look at what you're doing. It also gives you time to look to make sure everything's working, and it's just gonna make everything speed up so much more for both of us.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's a game changer. I'm glad you.
And everybody should remember something, that the tech and safety is there for you, not for the tech guy.
That's right.
Yeah. So don't make the tech guy into the bad guy because your junk doesn't have what it needs to have.
Right.
You know, so that is an important one for sure. Okay, we appreciate you guys tuning in, Jet, Lycan, everybody that's been on tonight, Rebel Drivers in the house, of course, everybody, all of you guys that have been on here, Clint, we really appreciate it. Next week it's D-Day, right? Like it's all going down. Yeah, so.
On that RMRWers page, I'm going to do like I did last year. I'm going to post the sky views of all the tracks, so everyone will have a pretty good idea where everything's going to be. So pay attention to that. Next week, I'll start doing one of those a day. Ask questions for anything you need to know the answers to. Matt is on there. There he is. And it is also an admin on that page. Bam. So he's actually looking at that. I'm looking at that. Chad's an admin on that page as well. So we're all kind of looking at that and whatever. But put your questions up. We can answer those questions now, so we're not trying to scramble a week out. You do have a week. I know that's short, but it's also long for a lot of this stuff, like Chad was saying.
Yeah.
And get there Friday for the pre-party. There's Friday from noon till I think 6. Pre-party in the center of town of Great Bend. The town's putting it on for us. We're going to have live music. We're going to have a bunch of our vendors set up there. It's going to be a big car show for you guys to bring your cars down. There's discounts on foods and stuff like that. Like, that would be super cool to have all you guys come. If everyone came, it'd be awesome. I know it ain't going to happen that way, but just because we all can hang out and chill out. We're not all under pressure. It'll just be fun.
Before the shit hits the fan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Awesome, guys. Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it so much, guys. That was so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt, for being on, and McTaggart, Adam, of course, and Crosby. Everybody out there,
meeting you guys.
Enjoy your hot rods this summer. Go racing. Go driving. Take your kids to get burgers in the damn thing. Like, there's no reason not to be driving your hot rods. Gasoline's expensive. It's expensive no matter what you're driving, so go cruise your shit and have fun. You know, it's a way better thing to be out there enjoying your hot rod than not. So just
and you don't know how much longer we have to do it. Unfortunately, like, you know, with everything that's going on, all the stuff the EPA, all the stuff that they're pushing so hard. I say it every year. Our industry is under attack. So, you know, spend that little extra money and take your kids out. You know, like Doug Klein said in the video, it's perfect. He says, all you guys worried about those low mileage cars. He says, you either take your wife out in it and you go drive that thing, or when you die, your kids are going to sell it to me. I'm going to take my wife out and go drive it. So get your car out and go drive the damn car, because you don't know if there's a tomorrow for one. We've definitely seen that in the last year or so. Like, you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. So
enjoy it like it's your last.
Absolutely. Yep. Take your car out there, go and, these kids, your young kids that, they've seen your car sitting in the garage, but you never went out and got it fired up and go drive it. Go do it. Go do it. That's all I can say.
The summer don't last long, guys. Move your ass. Take it out. It's a beautiful day.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Everybody for tuning in. Like, subscribe, do all those things. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for another episode of Powershift. And then, we've got Triple B also, Beards, Burnouts, and Beer, which will be on Tuesday next week. So join us for that one as well. And everybody be safe, have fun, and stay out of trouble.
Race week starts next Saturday, baby.
LS Best Texas as well. Yeah. See you out there.
It's going to be crazy everywhere. See ya.
See ya.
Did I break it?
Chad, do